like to say all protocol observed.
The work is a solemn.
It is indeed an
opening,
honor and a
will
privilege to be
focus,
standing before you to deliver this meeting's opening remarks on behalf of the African Union Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, the AU ECOSOC.
Pan-African Parliament.
This high-level parliamentary dialogue comes at a pivotal moment in our continent's desired trajectory of being a global powerhouse of the future, one that is characterized by self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity pursued under Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance.
In the room to come up to
as espoused by the African Union's Agenda 2063,
and also
providing an enabling environment for the promotion of human rights
in accordance with the agenda
adherence to the rule of law, the upholding of good governance, the application of democratic principles remains one of the fundamental functions of the African Union's Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, the AU ECOSOC.
Resolution and the Pan-African
In this
Parliament.
regard, therefore, the AU ECOSOC shares the Pan-African Parliament's deep and justified concerns over the observable resurgence in occurrences of unconstitutional changes of government in our continent. Honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the resurgence of unconstitutional changes of government on our beautiful continent threatens regression and poses a disruptive challenge to the strides made in various quarters of Africa's champions of Agenda 2063. Not only are unconstitutional changes of government a spit in the face of efforts of the African Union in promoting peace, security, stability, human rights, and democracy in Africa, they are further an abominable violator of Agenda 2063's overarching vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. Unconstitutional changes of government open up old wounds on our continent and heighten uncertainty in our region, mercilessly robbing the sons and daughters of this soil of experiencing increased peace, reduction in the number of conflicts on our continent, renewed economic growth and social progress, people-centered development, and the increased unity of Africa in our lifetime. Honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, recognizing that our continent continues to grapple with challenges that call on us to continuously build and safeguard effective collaborations and strategic partnership for progressive engagements, the AU ECOSOC remains inexorably committed to providing opportunities for African civil society organizations to play an active role in contributing to the AU's principles, policies, and programs to promote unity and call for adherence to constitutional processes across all member states. This is in keeping with Article 2.5 of the AU ECOSOC statutes, calling for forging of strong partnerships between governments and all segments
Honorable members, distinguished guests,
of the civil society and the diaspora.
Ladies and gentlemen,
honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen,
my role here today
from the remarks made by our presiding officer, Mr. Dennis Kode, at the
deliberations we hold today fall under the mandate of the Committee of Cooperation, International Relations and Conflict Resolution. However, it does not limit the deliberations to the committee only as the issues to be discussed impact each and every one
to the vision of the African Union.
It is therefore my distinct honor to invite you all to this high-level parliamentary dialogue on democracy, human rights, and governance in African-themed unconstitutional changes in government and political transitions in Africa. Honorable members, only yesterday we received the report of the African Union Peace and Security Council, wherein Her Excellency Ambassador Emilia
Permit me to conclude by thanking
the chairperson of the African Union Peace and Security Council,
Excellencies, and the strategic partners of the AU who continue to support the AU in its endeavor to achieve the Africa we all want.
This House
I thank you and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
From the Committee of Cooperation the various African Union charters and protocols that are in existence to support the promotion of democracy, free and fair elections, governments and EU shared values. Despite this, we have member states that continue to violate these very protocols. As we proceed into the deliberations,
European Parliament's
I appeal with you
delegation for relations
to engage
with
actively.
the Pan-African Parliament.
Once again, I welcome you. Thank you very
Mrs.
much.
Rodriguez will participate remotely, and I would now like to invite her to take the floor.
I would like to invite
Merci pour cette invitation.
Mr. Laurent Maboto, the Deputy President
Microfono,
of the
por favor. Merci
Economic
de m'avoir
and Social
invité.
and Cultural Council, to come and give his address.
Oui, on vous suit.
Sí. ¿Ahora se escucha? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, Honorable.
Good morning.
Your Excellency, Honorable Chief Fortune Charumbira,
And thank you
President
for
of the
this
Pan-African
invitation.
Parliament, Honorable Mrs.
As
Soraya
the
Rodriguez, Chairperson of the European
Chair
Parliament's
of the
delegation
delegation
for
from the European
relations with the
Parliament,
Pan-African Parliament,
in charge of
Ambassador
relations with
Bankole
the
Adloye,
Pan-African
Commissioner for
Parliament,
Political Affairs,
it
Peace and
is
Security,
a great pleasure for
PAPS
me
and
to
AU,
see how the Pan-African
Honorable
Parliament
Dr.
is
Sharif El Gabali,
reassuming
Chairperson of the Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, Conflict Resolution, PAP, Honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament,
can you hear me now? This
here
is
present in
interpreting
your
speaking
various
from English
capacities.
channel. Can you hear me now?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say all protocol observed. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be standing before you to deliver this meeting's opening remarks on behalf of the African Union Economic, Social and
Very
Cultural
well, please
Council,
proceed.
the AU
Let me
ECOSOC. This high-level parliamentary
restart.
dialogue
I was
comes at a
saying,
pivotal
thank you so
moment
much
in
for
our
this
continent's
invitation.
desired trajectory
And
of being
as
a
the
global
chair
powerhouse of the future,
delegation from the
one that is
European
characterized
Parliament
by
in charge of
self-determination,
relations with the Pan-African
freedom,
Parliament,
progress,
it is
and
a
collective
pleasure
prosperity
to me to
pursued
see,
under
for me to see
Pan-Africanism
how
and
the
African
Pan-African Parliament
Renaissance,
is
as espoused by the African
reassuming
Union's
its
Agenda
activity
2063.
and taking back its role in the African
Providing an
political
enabling
architecture
environment
and the
for the
global
promotion of
architecture.
human
So I would like
rights,
to congratulate all of you for
adherence
the
to the rule
first
of law,
extraordinary
the
session
upholding of good
of this
governance,
Pan-African
the application
Parliament.
of democratic
I am proud
principles
of
remains
being
one of the
able
fundamental
to
functions
represent the
of the African
European
Union's Economic,
Union
Social,
and the
and
European
Cultural
Parliament in
Council,
this dialogue of
the
a
AU
high
ECOSOC.
level on
In this regard, therefore, the
democracy,
AU
human rights,
ECOSOC
and good
shares
governance
the
in Africa.
Pan-African Parliament's deep and justified concerns
when speaking about
over
the
the
current
observable
challenges in
resurgence
Africa,
in occurrences of unconstitutional
Secretary General
changes
for
of
United
government
Nations,
in
Antonio
our continent.
Gutierrez, affirmed
Honorable
at the
members
beginning
of
of
the Pan-African
October
Parliament,
that the
Excellencies,
use of
ladies and
force
gentlemen,
is considered
the resurgence
too
of
often
unconstitutional changes
as
of
the
government
only means
on our
to
beautiful
solve
continent
conflicts in
threatens
Africa.
regression
one
and
of
poses
the
a
challenges
disruptive
that
challenge
has
to the strides
been
made
poised
in various
recent
quarters
years, and you
of
know this very
Africa's
well, has
champions of
been
Agenda
coup
2063.
in the continental
Not only are
territory.
unconstitutional changes of
same
government
year,
a spit in the face
unfortunately,
of
we have
efforts
seen two
of the
different coups,
African Union
one in
in
Burkina Faso,
promoting
one
peace,
failed one in
security,
Guinea-Bissau,
stability,
and along
human
with
rights, and
this
democracy in Africa.
unconstitutional
They are further
government
an
changes
abominable
in the
violator
continent.
of
We have
Agenda
also
2063's
seen
overarching
how the
vision
continent has
of an
to
integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own
violent
citizens,
groups like Al-Qaeda and others
representing a
that continue
dynamic force in the
to
international
conduct
arena.
terrorist acts in the Sahel area.
Unconstitutional
And
changes
according
of
to the
government
last
open up
report
old
on
wounds
good
on our continent
governance
and
from
heighten
the
uncertainty in our region, mercilessly
Foundation,
robbing the
even
sons and
though
daughters
African governance has
of this
improved
soil of
since
experiencing
2010, this progress has been
increased peace,
slowed down
reduction in the number of
recent
conflicts on our
years. And
continent,
I would like to
renewed economic
point
growth and
out that
social
this situation of vulnerability
people-centered
of the
development,
different
and the
political
increased
systems
unity of Africa
is
in our lifetime.
unfortunately a global situation.
Honorable members of the
in
Pan-African
the
Parliament,
entire
Excellencies,
planet.
ladies and gentlemen,
This is a very concerning
recognizing that our continent
trend.
continues
And
to
I'd like to
grapple
also point
with
out that in the
challenges that call on us to continuously build and safeguard effective
Human Rights and Good
collaborations and
Governance
strategic
report, in
partnership
which I was a
for
speaker
progressive
on behalf of
engagements.
the
The
European
AU
Parliament. We were
ECOSOC
pointing out how in
remains
recent years
inexorably committed
this trend,
to providing opportunities for African civil society organizations to
trend
play an
of
active
dictatorships
role in
and authoritarian
contributing
regimes in
to
the
the
world
AU's principles,
is
policies,
there.
and programs to promote unity
we see
and call for
a
adherence
higher
to
number of
constitutional
these
processes
regimes in the
across
world. And that's
all
the
member
reason why I would
states.
like to launch a message to
This
say
is
that
in
it is
keeping with Article
necessary
2.5
that
of
in
the AU
order for
ECOSOC
us to
statutes,
fight this trend
calling
and
for
defend
forging of strong
democracy, we have to
partnerships
work
between
together.
governments and
And
all
I
segments
believe that European Union and the
of the
African
civil society
Union
and the diaspora.
must do this
Honorable
in
members
a
of the
united
Pan-African
manner, in a
Parliament,
joint manner,
Excellencies,
and
ladies
above
and
all,
gentlemen,
with all of the
to
African
echo the
countries that
sentiments
have
from the remarks made
been
by
able
our
to
presiding officer,
create
Mr. Dennis Kode,
a
at
democratic
the Reparations and
institution
Racial
from scratch
Healing
after
Summit held in
colonization
Accra,
in a
Ghana,
record time.
earlier this year
And I
in
would
July
also like to point
2022,
out that Africa
the AU
is
ECOSOC
more
wishes
democratic
to
than many
reaffirm
other regions
its
in
commitment
relation to
continuously
its
strive to
development
bring clarity and meaning
level.
to
We
the
should not
vision of the
forget
African
that
Union,
democracy tends
particularly to instruments
come
such
along
as Agenda
with
2063,
development,
flagship
economic development,
programs such
social
as the
development.
silencing of the
Africa
guns,
is
and policy
continues
provisions
to
that lend support
achieve
to member
both
states across our
objectives.
continent.
And that is
ECOSOC
the
will
reason
continuously
why
support
we
member states,
are completely
civil
aware
society,
that
and the diaspora for open
democratic
dialogue
leadership,
that
quality
will influence
leadership will be
policies and programs
necessary,
of the
and above
African
all,
Union.
quality democratic
Permit me
institutions.
to conclude by
Rule of
thanking
state,
the Pan-African
the quality
Parliament,
of democratic institutions
Excellencies, and the
is the
strategic
best
partners
guarantee
of the AU
for human rights
who continue
and for
to
the enjoyment of
support the
these
AU
rights by
in its endeavor to
citizens.
achieve the Africa we all want.
Unconstitutional
I
government
thank you
changes
and I wish you
that
fruitful
have taken
deliberations.
place in the African continent have also mobilized, on the other hand, the African Union to confront them. The African Union has shown a response that has also strengthened its good governance tools at a continental level. And I'd like to highlight the Accra Declaration against unconstitutional changes
like to
of
call
government that was
upon
adopted in the month of March as a clear commitment on behalf of the
Honourable
African
Madam
Union and its member states to finish
Soraya
these
Rodriguez,
unconstitutional
the
changes
chairperson of
and
the
to
European
strengthen
Parliament's
the continental
Delegation for
democracy
Relations
as it
with the
has been
Pan-African
pointed out on the
Parliament.
document. The
Mrs.
legal
Rodriguez will
tools,
participate
both at a
remotely,
national,
and I would
regional,
now like
and
to invite
continental
her
level,
to
must be
take the floor.
strengthened, just like the peace architecture or good governance architecture or the peer review mechanism at an African level. And this is going to improve the mechanisms for good governance and consolidate the democracies and the prevention of conflicts.
Microphone, por favor. Merci de m'avoir invité.
Besides the commitment that the continent has towards constitutional changes, the African Union has also strengthened and has contributed, has helped as a mediator with different regional organizations.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes,
it is highlightable, for example, the peace conversations to solve the Ethiopian conflict that were led by the African Union, and that started only last week. So the Pan-African Parliament is an institution that is a fundamental entity in this parkour, in this whole trajectory. And chair of the delegation from the European African Union, both the African Union and the European Union have relations with the Pan-African strong cooperation. It is of great pleasure for me to see how the Pan-African Parliament democracy and rule of state, and this cooperation is based on a principle of African solutions to African problems. This is a joint commitment between the AU and the EU that was renewed in the joint declaration.
Can you hear me now? This is interpreting speaking from English channel. Can you hear me now?
That was held last month of February. So our cooperation, this joint effort, is also focused on supporting in a very firm way the women's agenda,
well. Please
the
proceed.
peace and security agenda, the fight against armed conflicts, and violation so much for this invitation with children. And this is all due to the fact that we're both convinced that both from the European Parliament in charge of relations with the Pan-African society, it is a pleasure for me to see how the Pan-African Parliament is, on the other hand, reassuming its activity and taking back its role in the African political architecture and the global architecture. So I would like to congratulate all of you for the first extraordinary session of this Pan-African Parliament. I am proud of being able to represent the European Union and the European Parliament in this dialogue of Human Rights Commission for the next month of democracy, human rights, and good governance in Africa. Our delegation. I'd like to highlight the support and when speaking about the current challenges in Africa, the Secretary General for the United Nations, Antonio Gutierrez, the last one in Kenya, affirmed at the beginning of October that the use of force is considered because we are completely aware that as the only means to solve conflicts in Africa, at the core of one of the challenges societies, and I'd like to also highlight in recent years, and you know this very well, has been European ACP in the continental territory. Denouncing unconstitutional, we have seen two different coups, one in Burkina Faso, one failed one in Guinea-Bissau, a 2021 resolution on the unconstitutional government changes in the continent. We have also seen how the continent has national security face extremist the cooperation between violent groups like Al-Qaeda and others that continue to conduct terrorist acts in the Sahel area. And according to the last report on good governance from the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, even though African governance has improved since 2010, this progress has been slowed down and activate all of the good governance and I would like to point out that this situation of vulnerability changes in governance, we have to political systems to strengthen unfortunately governance, a global situation in the entire planet. This is a very concerning trend, and I'd like to also point out that in the last Human Rights and Good Governance report, which I was a speaker on behalf of the European Parliament, we were pointing out how in recent years and the independent mechanisms for elections and increasing elections, we have to continue trend of dictatorships and authoritarian regimes in the world is there. And unfortunately, we see that a higher number of these regimes in civil society organizations. I would like to launch a message. We also need to work on preventive democracy. That in order for us to fight this trend and defend democracies, we have to work together, conducting unconstitutional actions. The European Union power. I have no doubt that the key role do this both parliaments in a united manner, in a joint manner, and above all, with all of the African countries that have that we will have been able to continue discussing this democratic institution from the next after parliamentary session in time of our. And I would also like to point out that Africa will take place more democratic than many other regions in relation to we are preparing this development meeting with level. We should not forget that democracy tends to are excited to come along so that we can dedicate these 2 days to discuss economic development, security, nutrition, and food continues and the role of women and youth as positive change agents. The reason why we look forward completely aware that to hear the conclusion leadership to this debate will be necessary. I'd like to reiterate my enthusiasm democratic institutions for the next visit of the African Parliament in Brussels of democratic institutions of December. Our joint agenda for human rights large, and for the enjoyment of these rights that by next year, 2023, will also be intense. Unconstitutional government changes all of you. Thank you so much for this invitation. In the African continent Parliament have also mobilized, on the other hand, the African Union to confront them. The African Union has shown a response that has also strengthened its good governance tools at a continental level. And I'd like to highlight the Accra Declaration against unconstitutional changes of government that was adopted in the month of March as a clear commitment on behalf of the African Union and its member states to finish these unconstitutional changes and to strengthen the continental democracy as it has been pointed out on the document. The legal tools, both at a national, regional, and continental level, must be strengthened, just like the peace architecture, or good governance architecture, or the peer review mechanism at an African level. And this is going to improve the mechanisms for good governance and consolidate the democracies and the prevention of conflicts. Additionally, besides the commitment that the continent has towards constitutional changes, the African Union has also strengthened and has contributed, has helped as a mediator with different regional organizations. And it is highlightable, for example, the peace conversations to solve the Ethiopian conflict that were led by the African Union and that started only last week. So the Pan-African Parliament is an institution that is a fundamental entity in this parkour, in this whole trajectory. And the reason is because the African Union, both the African Union and the European Union, have maintained a strong cooperation in terms of security, peace, democracy, and rule of state. And this cooperation is based on a principle of African solutions to African problems. It's a joint commitment between the AU and the EU that was renewed in the joint declaration after the AU summit that was held last month of February. So our cooperation, this joint effort, is also focused on supporting in a very firm way the women's agenda, the peace and security agenda, the fight against armed conflicts and violation of human rights, especially with children. And this is all due to the fact that we're both convinced that both the youth and women need to take a central role in society as positive change agents.
Somewhere in my speech,
on the other hand, we also
this is
can foresee a very important path that we have to cover together for both the Pan-African Parliament and the European Parliament in next month. I'd like to highlight that in the European Parliament we are planning to have a debate on the human rights mechanism for the African Union at the Human Rights Commission for the next month of December. And this will rely also on the participation of our delegation. I'd like to highlight the support and the active participation of the European Parliament in observation missions in different elections processes, the last one in Kenya in August, as well as other activities that we have conducted throughout the entire electoral cycle, because we are completely aware that participative elections, free elections, are
I'm the head of Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union Commission within the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate.
Highlight the participation of the European ACP in Mauritania, also denouncing unconstitutional changes on the continent and supporting political stability, including a 2021 resolution on the role that parliaments can play when strengthening the national security. This is to say that the cooperation between the Pan-African Parliament and the European Parliament is key in this area. we
It's
have
better
and
because
we
if
must
she stands up,
continue
she will still be like
working
this to you.
together.
So,
We need
But
to
when she's now facing
be
the
able
screen,
to
we are seeing them over there. We are seeing
hold governments
someone in Europe
accountable and
over there.
activate all of the
So
good
the
governance
screen
and human
is
rights
serving a good
mechanisms
purpose for you.
to
Thank you.
enforce constitutional
Right.
changes in governance. We have to continue working to strengthen
Good morning,
democratic
Excellencies.
governance. And
My name is Charles
Please don't
Manga.
show me, show him, not me.
accountable
The one who is
those
on the floor.
that have
The
conducted
screen.
unconstitutional
Who is controlling the
changes
screen?
and will
So
not
proceed.
be
Okay. Good morning, Excellencies. My name is
let
Charles
go
Manga
without
Fombat.
the weight
I'm
of the
the
law.
director
We
of the
have to
Institute for
continue
International
working with the
Comparative Law,
National
Faculty of
Commissions
Law,
on Human
University
Rights
of
and the
But when you come back
independent
again, you need
mechanisms
to be
for
more lively.
free
Yes,
elections.
and
We
you
have to
come back
continue
again.
defending
A bit of
the
motivation.
courage to have
So you want me to
independent
start?
media
Yes, anyway, I
and
think
to
stand down a
highlight
bit nice because you can't even hear him.
Okay.
key role of
Let me start again. I said good morning,
civil society organizations
Excellencies.
in our
My name
societies.
is
We also need
Charles
to
Manga
work
Fombat,
on
and I
preventive
am the director
democracy
of the Institute
to
for International
persuade
Comparative Law,
leaders
which is based in the
from
Faculty of Law, University of
conducting
Victoria.
unconstitutional
And
actions
thank you
to
for inviting me
enhance
to
their
be
power.
here.
I have no doubt
Thank
that
you. We'll
the
clap
key
for you.
role of both parliaments and parliament members
Good morning,
is key
Excellencies.
for this effort.
Thank
And
you for
last, I'd
inviting
like to
youth
say
voices
that
to this
we
forum
will
here.
have the
My
opportunity
name
to
is Ethan
continue
Mudavanu.
discussing
I am
this
the United Nations
topic
Internet
in
Governance
the next
Forum ambassador,
parliamentary session
and then also
of
I'm
our
a tech
both
and
parliaments
policy
that will
advisor at
that will
Access
take place
Partnership.
on
Glad to
the
be here.
8th and the 9th of December here in Brussels. We are preparing this joint meeting with lots of enthusiasm, and we are excited to have you so that we can
very
dedicate
good
these 2
morning,
days to
Excellencies.
discuss
My name is
peace,
Graham
security,
Matenga. I am with
nutrition,
International
and food
Idea
security,
and the
and the
thematic
role
lead
of
on
women
political
and youth
participation and
as
representation.
positive change
Sorry,
agents.
come again. We can do it properly.
I look forward with lots of interest to hear the
My name is
conclusions
Graham
of today's
Matenga.
debate. And
I'm with
again, I'd like to
International
reiterate my
Idea.
enthusiasm
I am
for
the
the
thematic
next
lead
visit
on
of the
political
Pan-African
participation
Parliament
and
in Brussels
representation for
in
the
the 8th
Africa
and
and West
9th
Asia
of December.
region.
Our joint
Thank you,
agenda
and glad to be here.
is large, and I
Thank
believe
you.
that
We
next
clap
year, 2023,
for
will
you.
also
Thank you
be
for your
intense.
presence.
Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you so much
Sorry,
for this
I didn't
invitation.
realize we had more this side.
Good morning, Excellencies. My name is Andre
Merci
Mbatamangu.
pour cette intervention.
Thank you very much
I am an
for your
extraordinary
address.
professor at the
I'd now
University of
like to
South
invite
Africa,
the President of the Pan-African
an ordinary
Parliament
professor
to
at the
make
University of
his
Kinshasa in the
keynote
DRC,
address.
the Executive
As
Director of
he
the
loves
Institute for
to do,
Democracy,
may I invite
Governance
him
and
to
Peace
once again
in
take
Africa.
the rostrum.
It also
Thank you.
happens that I am the first Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you.
I was just wondering where I had seen you. Now I remember you came for the Speakers' Conference. You are in this chamber for the 1st, 2nd September. Good morning. Thank you very much. And I remember when we became very good friends. Bondia, Habari.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Good morning to all of the honorable members. My name is Adebayo Olukoshi. I describe myself as a motor park economist. Thank
Bonjour.
you.
A motorbike economist. Comment ça va? Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, thank you. I think from the introductions, you can see how recognized part of the business of today is. Mrs. and Soraya, these experts and our own members of Parliament, the European Parliament's delegation, I think the output of relations with Pan-African engagement today will help recognize our own members of Parliament. And I want to challenge everybody, of course, led by the Bureau and we have the 2 vice consultants or experts in this room. That Honorable this is not the first Honorable Ango meeting on the continent. I think we've attended several gatherings of this nature. Presiding officer, economic, social, and cultural always is Council, ECOSOC. So what? Ambassador Bankole. So what? Commissioner, Political Affairs, Peace like and Security. And they talk of African Union. They talk of democracy. Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa. Commissioner for Political Affairs and Peace and Security. That's the point. That's why we are here today. To make a difference. The Committee on Cooperation, International deeper Relations and Conflict Resolution. And we are always proud that the solutions to come from this chamber for this country. Because people are gathering every day. And you are all aware ambassadors and representatives of AU member states in South Africa. I invite all recall that the Union, ladies and gentlemen, the AU, and some of our organs met and deliberated somewhere in my on the rising phenomenon of unconstitutional changes of government and irregular political transitions of this kind. Unconstitutional changes of government and irregular political transitions is the first of its kind. I think the situation is becoming more complicated. I appeal to experts. We have a number of experts that are going to contribute. We never hold meetings. There was a declaration several experts at the African Union, and before I proceed, the African Union held the 16th extraordinary session the Assembly of the African Union of today on terrorism and unconstitutional changes of government in Africa. Held
Good
on
morning,
the
Your
28th of May,
Excellencies. My name is Tapiwa
in Malabo,
Nyasuru. I'm the head of Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African
So
Union
as we
Commission
deliberate,
within the Women,
be
Gender and Youth
reminded
Directorate.
that, thank you, we can actually clap for the President's Assembly held a session, is an extraordinary session.
Good morning,
which means
Excellencies.
this
My name
issue
is Howard
has
Azimene.
become
I'm here today on
urgent
behalf
matter.
of
The AU,
the
the head
SADC
of
Forum,
state,
and
they
I'm the
went
head of
Malabo
the
this year,
Governance,
28th
Peace and
May,
Security Cluster.
in Malabo,
Thank you.
on the topic terrorism and unconstitutional changes of government in Africa.
Mr. President,
Sorry. If
we want to see them
Bankole
when it's standing up.
is going to present, I'm not sure if he's you see the one on the screen. It's better because even if she stands up, she will still be like this. He was going to say more about, but when she's not facing the screen, in Malabo, we are seeing them over there. We are seeing someone in Europe over there. They met. So the screen, and I think after they met, serving a good purpose for you. There was another coup. Go ahead. After Malabo May, I think the Burkina Faso one came after May. I can't
Good
remember.
morning, Excellencies. My
It
name
means
is Charles
please don't show
Manga
me,
from
show it, not me. The one who is on the floor. African Parliament. The screen. Who is controlling now is an opportunity this morning
Good
to
morning,
reflect upon the
Excellencies.
outcomes
My name is Charles Manga
of the
Kombat.
extraordinary summit in
I'm the
Malabo.
director of the Institute
And
for
it also
International
offers
Comparative
a chance for us to
Faculty of Law,
strategize.
University of
But
Pretoria.
based on our mandate is more live on how we can help. Can you come back again? Prevent, mitigate and address
So you want me to start?
yes, unconstitutional changes of government because we can't even hear you. Under Rule 41 of the PAP
Let me
rules,
start again. I
which
said,
enjoins us to
good morning,
participate in
Excellencies.
creating awareness
My
among
name is
the
Charles
people of
Manga
Africa and
Kombat,
promote peace,
and I am the
security
director
and
of the Institute for
stability on the African
International
continent.
Comparative Law,
PAP
which is based
is
in
the
the
voice of
Faculty
the
of
African
Law,
citizens
University of
within the
Pretoria.
Union,
And
the African
thank
Union,
you for inviting
in
me
the
to
quest
be
for peace and political stability. For you. So our dialogue today should therefore be practical. Very,
Good morning,
very practical.
Excellencies. Thank you for
I know
inviting Youth
always you can use
Voices to this
language and
forum
fit in
here.
niceties,
My
words
name is
that have
Ethan
been used by
Mudavani.
others, fine.
I am the
But
United
use them
Nations
and go beyond.
Internet Governance
Go to the next
Forum
level and say,
Ambassador.
this is the language,
And then
that's
also I'm a
language,
tech and
especially
policy
from the experts, nice
advisor at Access
language which
Partnership.
exists in
Glad to be
documents,
here.
in research papers, fine. We have read that. What we want now is what is the next step, the real practical steps, so that we become
A very good morning,
oriented
Excellencies. My
and
name is
support
Graham
the efforts of the
Matenga.
AU and member
I
states.
am with
And we
International
move on this
Idea. I'm the
critical
thematic
issue.
lead on political
And in doing
participation and
so, we are
representation.
taking further the issue of silence again, the theme for the year 2020.
Okay.
We want now to
My name is Graham.
actualize some of those statements which were made,
idea
and we just not just gather to
political
repeat,
participation and representation
to
for the
repeat
African
what has been
Media
said in
region.
other workshops.
Thank you, and I'm glad to
As
hear.
Albert used and rightly stated, insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results.
Oh, sorry.
So we can't sit here today
more this side.
and do the same things and what others said and expect that things will change.
Good morning,
We have to
Excellencies.
go slightly
My
higher.
name is
And
André
that we
Mbatamambu.
acknowledge and want to
I am an extraordinary professor at the
AGA,
University of South
the
Africa,
African Government Architecture Platform,
an ordinary professor at the
offering a
University
number
of
of
Kinshasa in
dialogues
the DRC,
on this continent,
the
on this
executive director
issue
of the Institute for
of
Democracy,
unconstitutional
Governance
changes
and
of
Peace
government.
in Africa.
And
It also
we have
happens
ECOSOC here,
I am
and
the
they've
first
already presented the
Deputy
civil
Speaker
society.
of the National Assembly of the
Now,
Democratic
can
Republic of
we
Congo.
work together,
Thank you.
civil society and
I was
elected
just wondering where I had
representatives,
seen you.
to address some of these
Now I
issues?
remember you came for the speakers
And for
conference.
ECOSOC or civil
You are in this
society,
chamber for the 1st,
I
2nd
want to
September.
see
Thank
when
you
these
very much.
coups take
And I remember
place,
we became very good friends.
there are some contradictions sometimes.
Thank you very
People
much,
sometimes say it's a
Excellency.
good
Good
coup.
morning to all of the honorable members. My name is Adebayo Olukoshi.
If you remember, and the
I
best case
describe
is
myself as a
Mauritania,
motor park economist. Thank you.
2007,
A motorbike economist. There was a queen
Thank you very much.
and the late former president
Anyway,
of Libya.
welcome. I
Muammar
think from the
Gaddafi was chair of the
introductions,
AU was sent
you can see how
to
serious
Mauritania
to tell the
business
military
of
that
today
they take
is.
power, that the AU no
And,
longer entertains
these experts
unconstitutional
and
changes
our
of
own
government.
members of parliament.
So go and tell the soldiers
I think the
that they should go
outputs of
back
this
their barracks. Engagement
because
today
we as AU will not
will
support
help Africa.
that illegal.
And I want to challenge everybody, MPs,
So
and
Gaddafi,
when he was consultants or experts,
in an auction
that
that is Mauritania.
this is not the first. He
such
was greeted
meeting on the
by
continent. I think we've attended
thousands of
several
Mauritanians at the
gatherings of this nature.
And then, and they
The
said,
question
telling him,
always
celebrating
is,
that these soldiers have done
so
well.
what?
So
You know
what?
that story.
People always
The
meet
people are
like this.
celebrating that the coup
And
was
they talk
good.
of unconstitutional change of government. They
We
talk of
thank the
democracy
soldiers for removing
so what?
the government.
Anything changing?
Then you ask, that's why
That's the point. That's why we are here today.
To make a difference.
Sometimes people like this.
To make,
coups.
let's think deeper. The people themselves.
And we are always proud that the solutions should come from this
let's
chamber
get into the
for this
dynamics.
continent. What is the psychodynamic
Because
in the mind
people
of the
are gathering
people
every
when
day.
they see someone taking power
And you are all aware
unconstitutionally
that
in
they
this?
celebrate.
What is the issue?
This year,
People can celebrate sometimes.
You all
We
recall
as
that
leaders
the
or
Union
MPs
of
are not
Africa, the AU,
acting in sync with
in
the
some
people.
of our organs,
We may be
met
elected, but not
and they've
acting in sync with the
deliberated
people.
also. There are
On
some
the
cases.
rising phenomenon of
When we are in
unconstitutional
power,
changes of government and
we
irregular
don't
political
promote the
transitions
aspirations
of the electorate who put us in office. Unconstitutional changes of government
In
and
the case of
irregular
Burkina
political
Faso,
transitions. Not now. I think the situation is becoming
Some,
more
I think around
complicated.
2007, 2006, I can't remember.
And you are aware that Burkina Faso wanted to change the
There was a
constitution because the
declaration
president then had
this year.
said 2 years. And the president wanted
African
another
Union,
3rd year. As you are aware,
and
they
he
managed
held
to
the
16th
and
extraordinary
instead of
session,
already manipulate
extraordinary session,
the parliament
of the Assembly of the
to
African Union
support
on terrorism
change
and
and
amend the constitution to allow for another
changes of
government
another
in
term or two
Africa.
terms.
Held on the
whatever
28th of
happened,
May,
MPs voted in
2022 in
In terms of
Malabo.
their constitution,
Guinea.
parliament can vote to amend the constitution. So they voted and
So as we
amended it.
deliberate,
Be
the moment they
reminded
did
that
that, you are all aware, people went on the streets.
The African Union
The very
Assembly
people who elected the
held
MPs when
a
the
session,
session
an
demonstrated
extraordinary
banned the
session,
parliament,
which means this issue
But
has
saying, who
become
told you that we
an
want
urgent
this
matter.
amendment?
The AU, the
Who
head,
told
our heads
you?
of state, you know, they went to Malabo this year,
Which means
28th May.
although
Malabo,
elected, sometimes
on the
we
topic
also
terrorism
do
and
not,
unconstitutional changes of government in Africa.
act in promoting the spiritual aspirations of our own people. Ambassador Bankole, this is the essence of this discussion. Is going to present. I'm not sure if he's coming in at some point. These changes also come because we have failed. But fortunately, we have also seen demonstrations now to say more about against the military what transpired in Malabo, which is very encouraging. In May. And I did mention yesterday that in Sudan, they met demonstrations. And I think after they met, you people, there was another state. The military takes power after Malabo, May. I think the Burkina Faso one came after May. They enjoy that power also. It means and they are reluctant to call for elections. And they transfer African parliament to the civilians. Now is an opportunity this morning to reflect upon the outcomes, political transitions of the extraordinary summit in Malabo. And it also offers a chance for us to strategize. People are demonstrating in the based streets on our mandate as in Sudan on how we can that the military has overstayed, prevent, mitigate, and address. They took power because the resistance of unconstitutional changes of president. And the rule was corrupt, was this fine. Which enjoins us to participate in creating awareness among the people of Africa and promote peace, security, and stability on the African continent. I think this has been a talk. PAP this morning is the voice of the African citizens. May I finish by the issue of elections in the quest for peace and political stability in this dialogue. So our dialogue today should have elections are a vehicle, very, very practical to. I know always you can use language in certain nice fortunately, Kenya that have been used by others. After all the possible, use them and go the next level and say, this is the language, that's language, Kenya, especially from the experts. No nice language which exists in documents. No violence in one thank Kenya for that. After such, we have read elections. What do I now say? But what is the next step? The issue of elections so that we become action-oriented. If you look at and support the efforts of the AU and member states, the issue on these critical elections also, and in doing so, we are taking further the issues of silencing the guns. We have to have a belief session for the year 2020. We want now to actualize some of those statements which were made. And we just not just on them also. That to repeat, we need to focus on that. To repeat what has been said in other workshops. I think we need some time where next time, but we need this election of independent election commission. I think there is also sometimes expecting different results. Look at the way they behaved in Kenya. So you can't sit here today and do the same things and what others say. Thank you very much. We have to go slightly higher, and that we acknowledge, and I want to thank AGA, the African Government Architecture Platform, for offering a number of dialogues on this continent on this issue of unconstitutional changes of government. And we have ECOSOC here. And they've already presented a civil society. Now, can we work together, civil society and elected representatives, to address some of these issues?
On that note,
and for ECOSOC or civil society, I want to say when these coups take place, there are some contradictions sometimes.
Make arrangements so that
people sometimes say it's a good coup.
Agenda that is quite top-heavy. He would be absent for about an hour before.
If you remember, and the best case is Mauritania, 2007, 8 thereabouts. There was a coup in Mauritania, and the late former president of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, who was chair of the AU, was sent to Mauritania to tell the military that they've taken power, that the AU no longer entertains unconstitutional changes of government. So go and tell the soldiers that they should go back to their barracks,
which will help
because
us manage
the AU will not support
changes
that illegal
of government
establishment
and political transitions.
So Gaddafi, when he was landing in Nouakchott, that is Mauritania, he was greeted by thousands of Mauritanians at the airport.
Make the requisite arrangements.
And they said, telling him, celebrating that these soldiers have done well.
for other urgent matters before he rejoins.
You know that story. The people are celebrating that the coup was good. We thank the soldiers for removing the government.
J'appelle le protocole du président.
Then you ask, and that's why I'm provoking debate.
Protocol officers, please, would you come forward?
Sometimes people like these coups. The people themselves. So let's get into the dynamics. What is the psychodynamic in the mind of the people when they see someone taking power unconstitutionally and they celebrate? What is the issue?
Let me give the floor
People can celebrate.
to
Sometimes
the
we as leaders or MPs are not acting in sync with the people. We may be elected, but not acting in sync with the people also. There are such cases. When we are in power, we don't promote the aspirations of the electorate who put us in office. In the case of Burkina Faso, not now. Some, I think around 2007, 2006, I can't remember the. You are aware that Burkina Faso wanted to change the constitution because the president then had served 2 years. And the president wanted another 3rd year. And he managed to work, and I use the word manipulate the parliament or MPs to support, to change, to amend the constitution to allow for another term or 2 terms. And whatever happened, the MPs voted in parliament. In terms of the constitution, parliament can vote to amend the constitution. So they voted and amended it. And the moment they did that, you are all aware, people went on the streets. The very people who elected the MPs went on the streets, demonstrated and banned the parliament building. Because they are saying, you MPs, who told you that we want to take this amendment? Who told you? See, which means, although elected, sometimes we also do not act in promoting the spirit or aspirations of our own people. This is the essence of this discussion this morning. That sometimes these changes also come because we have failed. But fortunately, we have also seen demonstrations now against the military, which is very encouraging. And I did mention yesterday that in Sudan, there have been demonstrations. People are saying, you people,
I'd just like at the beginning of before we enter with our panelists today, to say that
and then
just a few
they
words.
Enjoy that power also.
The Africa we want is
and they are reluctant to call for elections
on a peaceful and secure continent.
To transfer power
this
back
is clearly articulated on the Agenda 2063 with its 7 clear aspirations.
Political transitions.
To further ensure attainment of this goal, AU member states have committed to make peace, democracy and good governance
in Sudan
a reality for citizens of the African continent. AU treaties and protocols have further provided clear and systematic framework through which member states can enforce the issues of governance, democracy, peace and security challenges that the continent faces.
Yet you are not elected. I think this should be the top.
In the more recent past,
this morning,
the continent has begun to witness the re-emergence of forceful takeover of governments through military coups, military coup d'etats. Scholars have further demonstrated that whilst we are quick to admonish military coup d'etat and the actors involved, there are other forms of unconstitutional changes in government as defined in the operational framework. The African Charter on Democracy, Election, Governance adds onto the definition of UCGs as any amendment or revision of the Constitution or legal instruments, contrary to the principle
if you look at this whole issue,
to the principle of democratic change
who conducts
of
elections also, I think should be
with me
one
and 4
of
panelists
the major issues as PAP.
who will be interrogating the relevance and effectiveness of regional, legal, political, institutional framework relating to the unconstitutional changes in government
and
political transitions and addressing various sub-themes
I think we need some time
relating to the topic of the session.
This election
Our guest today
commissions, I think they are also sometimes a problem.
Mabata
Look at the way
Mangu,
they behaved in
the
Kenya.
research professor of law, director of
Thank you very much. I end here.
Verloren Van Themat Center of Public Law in the College of Law, University of South Africa. Contribution of the ABSA Secretariat and by Ambassador Ahmed Salah Siddiq, head of ABSA Secretariat.
Honorable members.
Contribution from ECO, SOCC, Mrs. Denise Code, presiding officer, Economic, Social and Cultural Council. Sub-regional responses to UCG and political transition case study of ECOWAS by Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, ECOWAS Commission.
The protocol services
Challenges implementing AU legal and policy norms, frameworks on unconstitutional changes in government, UCG, African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, ASDEC, and LOMI Declaration by Professor Andre Mabata Mangu, Research Professor at Law's Director in the University of South Africa. So by having all those very important guests in our today's first session, I welcome them to our session, and I would like to start giving the word, the presentation to Professor Andre Mabata Mangu.
Help us manage the unconstitutional changes.
Sorry, should I do it from here?
And political transitions in Africa. So it's
the clerk can say that
to the committee on international cooperation that is going to lead us. Protocol, please make the requisite arrangements, because the president is supposed to go to his office for other urgent matters before he rejoins us.
Well, how long?
I need 30 minutes.
J'appelle le protocole du président la semaine prochaine.
The protocol officers, please, would you come forward? Where are they?
Chair, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Your Excellencies,
Ceci étant, je passe la parole au président.
Distinguished guests,
And let me give the
ladies and
floor
gentlemen,
to the chairperson.
Let me first correct my presentation.
And
I used to be a research professor, but I'm now an extraordinary professor in the College of Law at the University of South Africa, ordinary professor at the University of Kinshasa, Faculty of Law, executive director of the Institute for Democracy, and as I said, the first deputy speaker of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I wish to thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this very interesting high-level dialogue on democracy, human rights, and good governance on the African continent. For more than 3 decades, we have heard quite a lot on these issues: democracy, human rights, good governance. Many dialogues have taken place, many discussions, many books and papers have been written on this topic. With some colleagues, for instance, in the field of law, constitutional law and political science, some of us thinking that democracy, human rights, and good governance didn't belong to the African continent, some of us being pessimistic, but also some being a positive optimist and arguing that democracy, human rights, and good governance also belong to Africa, and they are feasible on the African continent.
Well, we resume our first session now.
I've been asked to reflect on
I'd just like at the beginning of before we enter with our panelists today,
and
to
the
say that
effectiveness of
just a few
regional,
words.
legal, political,
The Africa we want
and
is
institutional frameworks
premised on a peaceful and secure continent. This is clearly articulated
And,
on the Agenda 2063
asked
with
to
its
particularly
7
focus
clear
on
aspirations.
the African Charter on Democracy,
To further ensure attainment of this
elections,
goal,
and the governance.
AU member states have committed to make peace, democracy, and good
First,
governance
dealing with
a
the
reality
AU
for citizens of the
normative
African
framework
continent. AU
on
treaties and
democracy,
protocols have
human
further
rights, and
provided
good
clear
governance.
and systematic framework
A
through which
distinction
member
is
states can
generally
enforce the issues of governance,
between
democracy,
those
peace, and
norms
security challenges
which are binding,
that the continent faces.
compulsory, and
In the more recent past,
those other
the
norms
continent has
which are
begun
not.
to witness the re-emergence
We find
of
the
forceful
normative, the
takeover of
binding,
governments through military
and
coups,
non-binding
military coup d'états.
norms
Scholars
on
have further
democracy, election,
demonstrated
and
that
governance
whilst we are quick
in quite a
to
number
admonish
of
military
instruments which
coup
have been
d'état
adopted
and the actors
by
involved,
African members,
there are other
by
forms of
EU member
unconstitutional
states.
changes
Let
in
me
government
cite
as defined
some
in
of
the
them.
operational framework. The African Charter on Democracy,
We have got the
Election
African Charter
Governance
on Human and People's Rights,
adds onto the definition of UCGs
which was
as many
adopted
as
in
any amendment or
1981,
revision of the Constitution
and which has been
or
in
legal
force
instruments,
since
contrary to the principle
1986.
to the principle of
The
democratic
African
change
Charter is a
of
charter
government.
binding on
With me are 4
EU member
panelists
states.
who will be
Another
interrogating
important
the
instrument
relevance
which
and
contains
effectiveness of
EU
regional,
normative framework on
legal,
democracy,
political,
elections,
institutional framework
or
relating to the
democracy, human rights, and
unconstitutional
good
changes
governance
in government
is
and political
the
transitions
Lome Declaration.
and addressing various
The
sub-themes
Lome Declaration
relating to the topic of the session.
on an EU response
Our guest today
to
is
unconstitutional change of
Professor
government.
Andre
So this is
Mabata Mangu,
specifically
the research professor
related
of
to
law,
unconstitutional change
director
of government in
the
Africa. The Lome
Van
Declaration,
Loren
for the first time,
Themat Center of
expressed
Public Law in
the
the College
concern
of Law, University of South
of EU
Africa,
member states
a
of
contribution of the
change of government on the
Secretariat
continent.
by Ambassadors Ahmed
Unfortunately,
Salah Siddiq,
the Lome
head
Declaration
of AGA,
is
ABSA
not binding.
Secretariat,
The first
contribution from
binding instruments when it comes to
ECO,
unconstitutional change of
SOCC,
government on the
Mrs.
continent,
Denise Kode, presiding officer, Economic, Social and
the
Cultural
EU
Council,
Constitutive Act,
sub-regional responses to UCG and
Article
political
4
transition case
of
study
the
of
Constitutive Act
ECOWAS
of the African
by
Union
Ambassador
clearly
Abdel Fattah
prohibits
Musa, Commissioner
and
for
condemns
Political Affairs,
and
Peace
constitutional change
and
of government
Security,
on the
ECOWAS
African
Commission.
continent.
Challenges implementing AU legal and policy rules,
should also
frameworks
mention,
on
and that is the instrument I'm
unconstitutional
going to
changes in
focus on,
government,
the African
UCG,
Charter on Democracy,
African Charter on
elections,
Democracy, Elections and Governance, ASDEC,
We find
and
there
Lome
quite a number of
Declaration
provisions
by Professor Andre Mabata
prohibit
Mangu, research
and
professor at
condemn
Laws
unconstitutional
Director
change of government.
in the University of South Africa. So by having all those
The African
very
Charter on
important
Democracy,
guests
elections, and
in our
governance
today's
also
first session,
describe or
I
define
welcome them to our session,
the situations
and
which are considered
I
and
would
constitutional
like
change
to
of
start
government
giving the
on the
word
African continent
the presentation
The first
to
one
Professor
is coup
Andre
d'etat.
Mabata Mangu.
against an elected government.
Should I do it from here?
The intervention by the mercenaries,
Well, clerk can say
Or
that.
to the podium?
the replacement of an elected government by dissident armed groups or rebels. We have got also for the refusal of a government to relinquish power after free, fair, and democratic elections. 30 minutes. And the last one, The last situation is that one of constitutional manipulation.
Thank you.
When, for instance, those who are in power manipulate the constitution to remain a chair and not refuse to relinquish power. Honorable, the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance is, apart from defining those situations, distinguished guests, and change of government, ladies and gentlemen, also provide for sanctions. Let me first correct my presentation. In case of unconstitutional change of government, professor, but I'm now an extraordinary professor. And the main instrument, the main mechanism of South Africa, the main ordinary professor at the University of Kinshasa, in the case of sanctions for executive direction of government, the Institute for Democracy the Peace and Other Security Council. The first deputy speaker of the National Assembly of the Democratic Republic of the chairperson, and also from some other speakers. Thank you very much for inviting me just to participate in this very interesting and high-level dialogue on democracy, human rights, and good governance on the African continent. The relevance and the effectiveness. The AU framework for more than 3 decades against constitutional change of government. Is it relevant? We have heard quite a lot on this relevant. Democracy, human rights, good governance. I think many dialogues have taken place. All of us know the answer. Many discussions. It is not effective. Many books and papers have been written on this topic. Witnessed with some colleagues, for instance, those cases of unconstitutional change of government, which have seen over the past years. Constitutional law and political science, Burkina Faso, some of us, thinking that democracy has not come as yet to the end of the story. And good governance, which countries belong to the African continent, that country is not represented here. Some of us being pessimistic, but also some being it is not positive, optimistic somewhere, and somehow we as a democracy, human rights, and good governance also belong to Africa, and they are feasible on the African continent. We have failed to deter the perpetrators to reflect on the change of government on the African continent, to interrogate the relevance, and somehow it has come as the effectiveness of regional legal, political, the very same perpetrators of unconstitutional change of government we condemn. We have to deal with them, and we have to sit with them in our gatherings. It means to particularly focus on the framework is not African working. Charter on democracy. It is not effective. Elections and the governance. What are the obstacles? What are the challenges? There are many. First, dealing with the AU normative framework, it appears clearly that democracy, human rights, and good governance, internal or domestic obstacles or challenges. A distinction is generally made also external between challenges. Those norms which are internally compulsory, the first obstacle are the norms which are not. The lack of political will. We find there is no political will in many countries and non-binding and norms on democracy, election, and governance in quite a number of instruments which have been adopted, as occurred by in a particular African country, by AU member states. The president has said it. Let me cite some of them. Sometimes the perpetrators of the coups, we have got the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, heroes, which was adopted in 1981, they perpetrated the coup, and which has been in force since another problem is that 86. Related to the political culture, the African Charter is a charter of the citizens binding on AU member states. Why? How is it possible that another important our citizens, which our compatriots, AU normative framework on democracy, elections, consider heroes, the perpetrators, democracy, human rights, and good governance? So there is a problem of political culture. The Lome Declaration. There is a problem of the Lome Declaration. With those who are in power on an AU response, those very same leaders who came to power through and democratic means specifically related to unconstitutional change of government in Africa. Those cases of unconstitutional change of government in other countries. For the first time, express the citizens, we are responsible member states of unconstitutional change of government on the continent. The way they react, and unfortunately, the Loma Declaration is not binding. There are also many obstacles. The first binding instruments when it comes to the constitutional change of government on the continent is... My colleagues are finished. I've seen my colleagues, Charles Fombat, will come here to speak about the global forces behind the Constitutive Act of the African Union to entrenchment of constitutionalism and democracy in Africa, and condemns. So there are also forces change of government internally and externally which work against democracy and which promotion and constitutional change of government. I'm going to focus on the African Charter on Democracy, global forces, and governance. We have seen in many cases we find there quite the international community not intervening forcefully and condemn unconstitutional change of government. The perpetrators of unconstitutional change of government. We have also seen some foreign powers, democracy elections in the African continent, also behind the coup d'etat. And then I'm only speaking of global forces and constitutional change of government on the African continent. There are also external forces. The first one is coup d'etat. You will find in against an elected on the same continent, in a country government, forces the intervention by the mercenaries against democracy and the rule of law. The replacement. That is, in my case, I make sure that is the case, for instance, of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Dissident armed groups or rebels, where I come from, we have got also the single country in Central Africa, we have government to relinquish power, that peaceful transfer of power, free from one ruler and democratic elections, from Mr. Kabila to President Tshisekedi. The last situation very first time is that Central Africa. Constitutional manipulation. When, for instance, what's happening now? Those who are in power, they manipulate the constitution, to remain the Democrats and not refuse to relinquish power or against one another. The African Charter on Democracy, elections, and governance, which, apart from against defining those situations, what is going on in the change of government, it also in the DRC, what we have seen in case of unconstitutional change of government. African forces also, and the main instrument, the main mechanism in this country, the country is being aggressive to intervene. We have to go to election next year. But there are forces which prevent the DRC to go to peaceful and democratic elections. And I think, and as we heard from since June, the chairperson and also from the DRC is again being aggressed by some other speakers through the mercenaries and the terrorists of the movement called M23, several cases M23 of unconstitutional change of government. So how are we going to promote democracy in this kind of environment? The question, going back to the relevance and the effectiveness, they are not just global framework. They are not just from the West and constitutional change of government. Negative forces are also on the continent. My answer will be yes. In foreign countries, it is relevant. Neighbor countries combating democratic forces in another country. And that is, I think, one of the challenges in the DRC. All of us know the answer. It is not effective. This is really important. Because if it was effective, because the country has to go to elections, witnessed to promote democratic change, those democratic governance of government which I've seen over the past years. The situation going on in the DRC, Burkina Faso, if the DRC continue to be attacked by Rwanda, for instance, we have not come as yet to the end of the story. For the DRC to organize peaceful elections, I hope that country is not representative. The main cause, the responsibility will not be on the Congolese people, effective. On the Congolese leaders somewhere, but and somehow we as a continent, Africans, and in this case from Rwanda. And what has been the reaction of the African Union when the DRC is being aggressed? How has the African Union we said we are going to promote democratic change of government on the African continent. But this is what is happening. And somehow it has come as a fait accompli. In the country, the biggest country, we have to deal with them on the continent. The very same perpetrators of the change of government, we condemn. The United Nations, with MONUSCO, we have to sit with them in our gatherings. It means people are there, the framework is not working, it is not affecting the massacres. What are the obstacles? Silence. What are the challenges? Complicity. There are many. So this is really, for me, disappointing. It appears clearly that we are failing in that internal and I'm touching on the issue of effectiveness. They are also external. So coming back to the broad issue of unconstitutional change of government, I internally, dialogues, debates, we have been debating for quite a long obstacle is, but are we serious? The lack about combating of political change of government. There is no political will maybe in many countries there to fight the Malabo Protocol and constitutional change of government. On amendments to the protocol and when a change of government of the African Court of Justice in a particular African country, and the chairperson, the president has said it earlier, in 2014, sometimes Article 28 the perpetrators of the coups of the Malabo Protocol are considered heroes. These provisions, the section provide that because the constitutional change of government should be combated. Another problem is that in the same way as a genocide related to the political culture of and the crimes against humanity. Malabo Protocol, why? How is it possible that when our citizens, our compatriots, 14 come and to consider heroes, the perpetrators later, of coup d'etat, for instance. Not a single ratification. So there is a problem of political culture. There is a problem leaders provided that those who are perpetrators of a constitutional change of government should be tried by a very same leader who came to power union through 8 years later means zero ratification. They are likely to condone those cases of unconstitutional change of government in other countries. 8 years later, it means that we are not serious. So the citizens, we are responsible. We will continue discussing about the leadership. This is where also mostly the leadership, the members of the Pan-African Parliament should play a role. And externally, to convince their governments to push the governments to ratify this very important protocol when it comes to the issue of unconstitutional change of government. My colleagues have finished. I've seen my colleagues. Let me end. Will come here to speak. If I have to contribute about the global recommendation, definitely behind global threats, this session should end with recommendation and democracy in Africa. To promote, so there are also forces peaceful, internally and externally on the African continent. Work against democracy, work for security and stability on the continent, and constitutional change of government. We must work. Secondly, global forces. We have seen in many cases the place of the DRC on the international community, the DRC being addressed by another country, another African member state of the African Union, the perpetrators of unconstitutional change of government. If you have to promote democracy, we have also seen some foreign against unconstitutional change of government to the African continent. This behind should end with a recommendation that, and there I'm only speaking of global forces aggressing the DRC. But on the continent, there are also external forces. You will find our leaders just throughout the continent, in a country, to work for peace, for security, in another country, and for human rights. So let me democracy and thanking you. The rule of law, and thanking the audience for listening to me. That is, in my case, I'm sure that is the case, for instance, of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Thank you, Professor André Longo, for this very important
where I come from.
Remarks you have given to us today.
The single country important. In Central Africa, we have
discuss about the internal, external factors that affect democracy.
From one ruler to another.
Talk about
from Mr. Kabila
leadership
to President
is very important.
The very first time
issues.
In Central Africa.
We have liked to have open discussion, but we have a long list.
But what's happening
so
now?
I think there are some changes in the list.
Democracy
So, okay, now we have online
the Democrats. They don't wage
Ambassador
war
Bankole
against one another.
the Commissioner of Political
But
Affairs, Peace and Security,
will wage war
AU, African
against
Union.
democratic leaders.
Can you please
What
come
is
online,
going on
please?
in the DRC?
Then
in the
after that,
DRC, what we have seen
Professor
is the case
Adebayo,
of African forces also against democracy in this country. The country is being aggressed.
We have Ambassador.
We have to go to election next year. But there are forces which prevent the DRC to go to peaceful and democratic elections. And I think everybody knows, since June, the DRC is again being aggressed by Rwanda through the mercenaries and the terrorists of the movement called M23. So how are we going to promote democracy in this kind of environment?
It's connecting? Okay.
So domestic negative forces, they are not just global. They are not just from the West. Negative forces are also on the continent, based in foreign countries, neighbor countries, combating democratic forces in another country. And that is
get online
one of the challenges
to be in the range of 15 minutes because we have several sessions and they want to finish before lunchtime today.
To be noted.
I would appreciate
because
if our
the country has to go
speakers
to elections.
Can speak in the range of 15 minutes maximum.
Democratic change, democratic governance. But with the situation going on in the DRC, if the DRC continue to be attacked by Rwanda, for instance, it will be difficult for the DRC to organize peaceful elections. And that is not will be. The main cause, the responsibility will not be on the Congolese people, on the Congolese leaders, but it will come from other Africans, and in this case from Rwanda. And what has been the reaction of the African Union?
If it's going to be
when the DRC is being aggressed,
we can take the following.
How
I don't know.
As the African Union, we said we are going to promote democratic change of power in the continent. But this is what is happening in the country, the biggest country
now
on the continent.
Professor Adebayo,
silence.
Olukushi,
the United Nations, with MONUSCO, the largest force. People are there.
Professor, can you please?
But witnessing the massacres
Thank you,
in the DRC.
Thank you very much.
Just maintain the 15 minutes, please.
I will definitely do that.
So,
thank you.
This is really
Thank you very much indeed.
It means that we are failing.
I'm really delighted to be here.
And there
it's been a few years since I had the opportunity to participate in your proceedings.
The broad issue of unconstitutional change of government, I said
particular topic that
dialogues,
we've been asked
debates.
to speak
we have been debating for quite a long.
My colleague Andre Mbata has given a very good overview
maybe I'm going to end
the context
the Malabo
of
Protocol
unconstitutional changes which we have seen
on amendments
in
to the
several
protocol.
countries. Particularly with the focus that has been placed on the coups in Mali, in Guinea, Burkina, perhaps a bit less so for Chad and Sudan, and the attempted coups that we've seen in Niger and Guinea-Bissau. And I would underscore that these are only the ones that have succeeded or have been known to have been attempted and came into the public domain.
In the same way as the genocide,
it's important, and I think the President of the Parliament touched upon this, as did Andre Mbata. It's important for us to also keep in mind that even in those countries where we have not seen the intervention of the military,
8 years later,
and therefore direct unconstitutional changes in government, there are
African leaders provided that the perpetrators of unconstitutional change of government should be tried by a competent court of the African Union.
Military to intervene
8 years later, zero
and I think this should
ratification.
be an important source of concern for all of us.
Zero ratification 8
that almost
years
30
later,
years after
it
the
means that we are
transition
not
of the
serious.
1990s, something seems to have gone seriously wrong with our effort at democratization. Something which requires to be corrected if we are not to see even more such unconstitutional changes
to push the government
of government as we have seen in the countries which I referred to earlier. And in this regard, I think by way of response, what we have seen has been an attempt by the African Union and ECOWAS particularly to stick to the texts that concern the unconstitutional changes of government by sanctioning the authorities in a very swift and sometimes comprehensive manner, even if there are criticisms of inconsistency in the application of sanctions. Inconsistency, particularly, for example, in the case of the coup that took place in Chad following the death of Marshal Déby.
being addressed by another country, another African member, member state of the African Union.
Coup takes place,
this meeting, this dialogue, if we have to promote democracy,
of course heard,
if we have to fight against the
Malian authorities, that there appear to be two different rules for the same action,
with a recommendation
calling into question consistency.
Should stop aggressing the DRC.
But leaving that debate aside, I think the fact that we have seen the comprehensive and swift application of sanctions may at one level speak to a desire and a determination
for security,
to enforce
for democracy, and for human rights
that were adopted in the form of ACDEC at the level of the AU and similar protocols at the sub-regional level.
Thank you very much.
To suggest an uncompromising attitude by our regional institutions to any unconstitutional change of government. I'm not going to spell out all of the sanctions which have been taken because I think they're familiar to all of us. What I'd like to say, though, is that
affect democracy,
sanctions,
to give examples,
first of all, the instruments themselves,
leadership is very important.
In the way in which they were crafted, when they were developed,
like to have open discussion, but we have a long list.
That democracy,
so I think there are some changes in the list
in Africa. So, I remember that it was in the context of the momentum of the 1990s,
Ambassador
in which Africa joined the global third wave of democratization. Almost every country abandoned single-party rule and military rule and embraced multi-party politics and elections as a way of getting leaders into office and removing them from office. And indeed, in the first decade of the transition, this seemed to work very well, to a point where many of the countries of the continent appeared to be well on the way to the consolidation of their democracies. Even some of them in West Africa, which used to be the coup d'etat belt of the African continent, were celebrated as the new success stories of the African continent. Benin Republic, alternation of power took place several times. Ghana, again, a poster child of successful democratic transition. And all of this in the first decade fed into the momentum that produced the movement towards the instruments that were adopted on non-constitutional change of government, on the assumption that democracy was not only good for Africa, but had also come to stay as the preferred way of administering our countries. And so I see in the instruments
to be in the range of 15 minutes because we have several sessions
and
we want to finish before lunchtime today.
Result
so
of processes
I would appreciate
that lead to an unconstitutional change,
can speak
but
in the range
not
of 15
sufficient
minutes maximum.
in terms of responding to those processes themselves when they begin to unfold. In other words, integral to the instruments is a whip that is used to sanction change when it has happened of an unconstitutional nature, but not to address the processes that produce such unconstitutional changes. So that, for example, when a president is serving a second term by constitution, preparing to leave office,
he's going to be
and decides almost unilaterally
we can take
to amend the constitution, when everybody knows that that is actually changing the rules of the game, in the course of the match, so that we don't lose there is nothing in our instruments that will enable us to sanction such a country. Professor, everybody knew, for example, that Guinea-Conakry was a coup waiting to happen. Secretary, Alpha Conde was contested on the streets, was contested in parliament of his country. The political parties objected, the opposition rallied, violence was used to suppress them. A so-called referendum was quickly organized, and all kinds of shenanigans took place.
Thank you.
Ordinarily,
thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Attention as a way of preventing. I'm really delighted to be here. That eventually been a few years since I had the opportunity is that the instruments which we have at present address the end result of processes that produce unconstitutional changes, but they do not address the dysfunctions. My colleague Andre Mbata has given a very good, and we need to find a way to correct this. This is, I think, in my view, worsened by the context that of unconstitutional changes which we have seen in several countries. Most of our democracies do not have a mechanism for self-correction. Placed on there is no perfect political system anywhere in the world. But where political systems and therefore political leaders do not have the capacity to self-correct when they go off course, when they derail, then we have a problem. And that is the reason why that have succeeded of change or have been known to have been unconstitutional methods in order to into the public domain. Those changes. The president spoke earlier about people jubilating the president of the parliament of an unconstitutional nature, despite the fact that it is unconstitutional. It's important for us to also because citizens keep in mind do not have enough avenues in those countries where are demonstrating every day that they are unhappy, as happened in the military to intervene in their countries. Political leadership has no mechanism to self-correct. The system just carries on as if everything is okay. A warning that almost 30 years after the transition of the 1990s for the kinds of actions to have gone, we have seen seriously to have taken place in democratization. In this regard, I think we have done ourselves a bit of a disservice in our constitutional democratization in failing sufficiently to empower the countries which I referred to earlier. Parliament in this regard, I think, too crippled by way of response. Money, what we have seen financial has been an attempt by the African Union and ECOWAS, particularly, especially the party of power, that presidential party, unconstitutional changes of government by sanctioning room for advising even the president in a very swift and sometimes comprehensive manner. Even if there are criticisms of inconsistency most of our parliaments as an extension of state house, inconsistency, particularly, for example, in the case of the coup that took place in Chad following the death of Marshal calibrate the system in representing the voice of the sovereign people, but and helping the leader sanctions, to be more sensitive to the sentiments of the populace is therefore from the Malian authorities. And I cite this as one example of the many instances of our inability to self-correct. I can cite the political parties as well. Political parties in a lot of cases that lack internal democracy. They are controlled as in their military and swift organizations. May at one level and speak to a desire and a determination to enforce diversity the texts are not encouraged in a lot of cases in the form of protect at the level of the from your party leader and similar protocols at the sub-regional level, and you are likely to be suspended and uncompromising attitude and all of those acts of intolerance that make it impossible against our system to self-correct. I'm not going to spell out all of the sanctions which have been taken because I think they are familiar to all of us. Over the last few years, what I'd like to say though, at least beyond the first decade of our democratic transition, we have first of all the instruments themselves of deterioration in which they were our political system when they were developed. Right? The president of the parliament when democracy gave his opening had come to stay. indicated that we need to remember that it was election management of the momentum of the 1990s, election administrations, which at the point was celebrated as being almost every country abandoned single party rule, and legendary Afari Jan embraced multi-party politics, and became almost like the emblematic figure getting leaders into office integrity and on the African continent. And indeed, in the first decade of the transition, this seems to work very well. Presidents and to a point where the right thing must be done to a point where we've seen a severe deterioration in electoral integrity, on the way to the consolidation of their democracy. Electoral even some of them, all kinds of games in West Africa, which used to be the coup d'etat of the impression of the African continent, we are actually was celebrated evidence which have been accumulated stories of the African from research, Benin Republic, across the continent. National power took place several a process of Ghana, democratic regression, a poster child of the high point of the 1990s. Some people don't even believe that their vote gradual decline across the board. In the number of people turning out to vote because they don't believe that if they vote, it will change anything. Some people don't even believe that their vote counts. It is no longer a case of plus à change, plus c'est la même chose. We used to say plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Plus ça devient pire. A colleague from DRC the more it changes, the worse it appears no longer a case of plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Speaks to another problem with our democratization. We have perfected because the more it changes, we have not been able to master substance. And this at the fourth level speaks to another problem with our democratization. Appear to we have perfected on formal basis, whereas we have not been able to master substance. We do the rituals of the consequence, but we don't deliver the dividends of our democracies to the people. And as a result of that, the generality of the citizen calendars do not see the rituals of elections as something which they themselves the dividends of elections. And that is why there is also a very general, as a result of that, the generality of the citizenry mobilization in support of elected government which they themselves unconstitutional changes take. And that is why there is also a very general delivers the dividends of democracy to mobilization in terms of elected government in unconstitutional changes take place. Populace, if in terms of elected, delivers the dividends of democracy to the people in terms of jobs for the youth, responsible and accountable government for the populace, then perhaps in terms of have seen a completely different reaction and all which the citizens themselves that we expect will become slow from responsible and accountable government. A system then perhaps for them we might have seen a completely different elected reaction in which the citizens themselves will become the bulwark against any attempt to change a system that works for them in terms of state capacity elected government to perform even the most elementary function of a state, particularly in the Sahel. The fact that when a state cannot provide security for its citizens, in state capacity, what democracy are we talking about? Even the most elementary function of a state, particularly in the Sahel. When a state cannot provide security for its citizens, all kinds, what democracy are we talking about? Firepower, really, at the end of the day, to the armed forces of many of the states of the region. Can even fly drones across our territories of all kinds, have superior firepower, and working on a transborder to the armed forces of many of the states of the region. It becomes really very easy. Can even fly drones for unconstitutional territories to take the center stage. Bandits. And that's exactly what we have seen. And working on the cases of Mali, in the cases of Burkina, it becomes really very threatening in a number of other unconstitutional regions to take the center stage. In order for us to begin to exactly what we have seen in the cases of Mali, in the cases of Burkina, and what is threatening in a number of other countries in the sub-region. Changes in order for that have already taken place in the countries that have witnessed constitutional change of government. It seems to me that we need to think seriously and rolling back those changes that have already taken place in the countries that have witnessed and they have their place. It seems to me that we need to think what next seriously needs to be done, especially when we recognize that those sanctions an expression and display of themselves, in and of themselves, but beyond sanctions, what next to prevent unconstitutionalism, especially when we recognize the sanctions that those sanctions effectively will not have themselves, in and of themselves, do not seem within the space of 1 year to prevent unconstitutionalism. and then if the sanctions were going to work effectively, head of state, you will not have Assimi Goïta staging two coups. Burkina Faso, within the space of 1 year, has just recently had another one, not because Burkina was not under sanctions. Burkina was under sanctions, head of state, but the imperative for himself in coup number 2. Burkina Faso still took place, has just recently had another sanctions, not because Burkina was not under sanctions. Having used sanctions to make a statement sanctions that the imperative for a coup still took place, the unconstitutionalism that has taken place in certain countries, that having used sanctions to make a statement social compact that we are between state and citizens, with the unconstitutionalism that has taken place in certain countries, we need to think of a revamped social compact, first a citizen state and citizens, and secondly, a revamped social democratic governance that will ensure that there is a bargain is a total retooling of the state in many of our countries in defending democratic governance that can provide the most elementary is a total retooling of the state in many of our countries. Exercise and enjoyment of citizenship, my security, that can provide the most elementary in anything. So we need to think creatively about how to exercise and enjoyment of citizenship and strengthen it to be able to perform its role as a state. So we need to think creatively about how to retool out the African state. We also need to think of a new leadership consensus to be able to perform its role leadership consensus that led us to the transition of the 1990s. To end here, that consensus has eroded to think of a new leadership consensus. But what are the rules of the leadership consensus that led us to the transition of the 1990s? We've accumulated a lot of consensus has eroded. There are rules, for example, but what are the rules of the game of presidential power that we need to respect? Reduce arbitrariness, accumulated a lot of experience. There are rules, parliamentary and judicial institutions, limitations in order for them to play their role in checks and balances arbitrariness, effectively strengthening of our parliamentary and judicial institutions, in order for them to play their role in checks and balances, more effectively, basic strengthening of election management of livelihood, in order to re-establish our citizens' integrity of elections, vote and creating, but actually are empowered of enjoyment of livelihood in a manner that ensures that political leadership do not simply understand that the ultimate, but actually are empowered to exercise the highest power in the land that ensures that political leadership understands that the ultimate office
Thank you very much for
the highest power in the land is the office of the citizen. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you for keeping the time of 15 minutes about, so it was important remarks. Clerk, and thank you for keeping the time of 15 minutes about, so it was great. Clerk, please. Are we going to? Huh? Okay, so we have the Ambassador Bankole. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we have Ambassador Bankole. We have the Commissioner of Political Affairs, Ambassador Bankole. Peace and Security. Yes. PAPS. Okay. African Union. Ambassador Bankole.
Thank you very much,
Affairs,
Honorable
Peace and Security.
Distinguished parliamentarians of the Pan-African Parliament.
African Union.
Greetings to thank you very much also Honorable President of the Pan-African Parliament, parliamentarians, and on behalf of the Pan-African Parliament, the Commission, His Excellency greetings to Muhammad. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity, Pan-African Parliament, and I will be done in about 6-7 minutes. On behalf of the Chairperson of the Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Muhammad, members of the Pan-African Parliament, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Let me, and I will be done in about 6-7 minutes. By my brother, Professor, distinguished members of the Pan-African Parliament, and to emphasize, let me endorse that yes, the democracy has come to stay. By my brother, Professor, Africa has been making steady, significant progress, and to emphasize in this democratization process, democracy since the 1990s, all that have been said, Africa has been making steady, significant progress. African Union. Protocol establishing the Peace and Security Council and to the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance normative framework, and the Lome Declaration from the Constitutive Act to the protocol establishing entrenched, and we have had our commitment to democracy. Democracy will not solve all our problems overnight. The emphasis, the best pathway to entrench that have been decided by our commitment to democracy. Democracy will not solve all our problems overnight, but it's the best central part that have been decided by our leaders of ensuring that democracy thrives. Parliament. So definitely, we have contested elections as one of the sources of insecurity in many parts of the country, ensuring that democracy thrives. And we have to do more. We have contested elections as one of the sources and of insecurity in many parts of our country, our continent, through the African we have to do more mechanism to promote efforts in implementing the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. Good governance will go a long way through the African that review mechanism, civic space. Our efforts